Welcome to Bet with Bobano. We are back Wednesday, February 28th. Ian Cameron and our Wednesday guest, our regular Wednesday guest, is back after missing, I think, the last week or 2 weeks, but he's back now. Brad Francis with me to help break down the Wednesday NBA card. We'll also look at a handful of games on the college basketball slate as well on this Wednesday night. And don't look now. We're 2 days away from March, and as you know, March is always an exciting month. NCAA tournament right around the corner. NBA getting all that much closer to the playoffs. So exciting time of year when it comes to hoops, pro and college. Brad, I know it's been a grind for me since the All-Star break. You were talking off air that it's been a struggle for you as well.
Yeah,
This is the dog days of the NBA season. You got to grind through this time of the year.
exactly. Yeah, man. And things are definitely heating up, like you said, with March coming up. And I mean, what a night of basketball we had last night. You had Fordham upsetting George Mason with a buzzer beater, Kentucky upsetting Mississippi State with a buzzer beater. We had a half court upset with Nevada over Colorado State at the buzzer. The Cavs beat the Mavs with a half court shot at the buzzer. I mean, incredible night of basketball, and it just shows what state we're in basketball right now. So couldn't be more excited. Like you said, man, I'm trying to find a groove right now. It was a tough weekend, tough start of the week. Had a winning day yesterday, but man, just trying to get some momentum any way I can.
Absolutely. And we're going to start off this Wednesday NBA slate with actually a play that I really like in this first game, the New Orleans Pelicans and the Indiana Pacers. Pacers 6.5-point home favorites, 237.5 the total here in this game. And this is strictly a situational bet for me, an angle that I'm looking at in this game. You've got New Orleans coming off a very impressive 115-92 road win last night against the New York Knicks. You've got the Indiana Pacers on Monday night losing at home as 5.5-point home favorites to the Toronto Raptors, 130-122 after they had won two straight games coming out of the All-Star break. But you look at this spot and you look at New Orleans on a back-to-back, and then you factor in that they didn't get out of New York and into Indiana until like 7 a.m. this morning. There was huge flight issues, plane issues involving the Pelicans getting to Indiana, and they didn't really get to their hotel in Indiana following that travel spot from New York last night until like 7 a.m. today. So that is absolutely brutal. When you had to play last night, you don't get in till 7 a.m. to Indiana, and then you got to play tonight against this Pacers team coming off that loss to Toronto. I laid the points here with Indiana. I think that just sets up very well. The Pelicans are playing some solid basketball, but I think this spot's just too much for them to overcome it. I know this is a very capable team and a team that I think in the West is being slept on. But I think tonight this is just asking too much. It's a very, very difficult scheduling spot, made worse by the fact that the flight did not land in Indiana for the Pelicans until early this morning. That's just awful, and you got to play a game the same night. So I think this is tricky. Indiana's ready to go. And Indiana, don't forget, prior to the loss against Toronto, the last time they played a pretty good team out west, Dallas came in there, and Indiana smacked them 133-111. So I think this spot sets up very nicely for the home favorite, the Indiana Pacers. Brad, what do you think here? New Orleans, Indiana.
Yep, I'm on the Pacers as well. I actually got it at 5.5 last night, so I love seeing this spread keep on climbing, and I still like them at 6.5. I even see it at 7 in some places. And yeah, I mean, we look at the injury report: Brandon Ingram questionable, McCollum, Williamson, all questionable for this one. So who knows if those guys, a couple of those guys sit and yeah, tough back-to-back spot for the Pelicans. I didn't even know about that plane trouble, but I think I was curious of why the spread kept jumping like that, but I assume that's probably factored in there. And yeah, I mean, this Pacers team, they've been solid. They're coming off a really bad performance against the Raptors. I mean, Halliburton played awful in that game. I don't see him having a game like that again. So, yep, I'm all over the Pacers here as well.
Right. I agree. I think it's a good spot, good situation and setup here for the Pacers tonight in that one. All right, we got the Memphis Grizzlies and Minnesota Timberwolves. Minnesota 12.5, 12-point home favorites, 208.5, 209 is what we're looking at for the total. This total, I agree with the move down. Clearly, I thought when it was in the mid-210s like it was too high, considering that Memphis is struggling to score. I mean, coming out of the All-Star break, Memphis has scored 95 and 86 in their two games against the Clippers and the Nets. This is like 90s basketball. You can't even fucking break 100 points Holy shit, it's bringing me back to the old school. Teams can't crack 100. Now it seems like no team can score fewer than 100 unless you're this Memphis team right now that suddenly can't score 100 points. And so they're definitely not an over team in my book. And we know Minnesota, they've had their bread's been buttered at the defensive end of the basketball court all season long. Been a very good top 5 defensive team in efficiency most of the season. They've gone under the total in all 3 games since the All-Star break. With Milwaukee, Brooklyn, San Antonio, all 3 of those games going under the total. Memphis coming off a 25-point loss to the Brooklyn Nets at home on Monday night. Minnesota, meanwhile, they did play last night against San Antonio. Only the back-to-back is keeping me from taking Minnesota, quite honestly, in this game tonight. But I thought the under was the even better look. But again, a lot of the value in the number has been taken out because this total opened as high as 215, and it's all the way down to 209. So clearly, other bettors are seeing what I'm seeing, that points should be few and far between here in this game, especially for Memphis. Look, I don't think Memphis team total under is a bad bet either. I think a Memphis team total under could be a good way to go if you're not comfortable laying the 12 here with the Timberwolves. What do you think here, Grizz Wolves?
Yeah, I'm actually gonna take the Grizzlies in this spot. Yeah, they haven't been able to score anything. Don't get me wrong. And other than that Nets game, they held a good Clippers team to 101 points. We saw it was before the All-Star break, but they beat the Bucks outright. Like, this team, they can score, but they do grind on defense and they play with good effort and they play with a lot of hustle. So I like that for the Grizzlies. We saw Anthony Edwards go down with some type of ankle injury. It looks like he's questionable, which is good because it was non-contact. I thought it was an Achilles at first. So it looks like they're dealing with some injuries. Rudy Gobert questionable as well. Minnesota on a back end of a back-to-back. I think I'm going to take the team who just, they suck, don't get me wrong, but they hustle and they grind. And I'll take that team getting the 12 points, 12 and a half in. That's where I'm seeing it right now, 12 and a half in. I feel like they could keep this somewhat close.
Yeah, it is a back-to-back situation for Minnesota, and it is a rest advantage for the Memphis Grizzlies here coming into this game tonight. So we'll see if that's able to help them just a little bit. All right, Dallas Mavericks and Toronto Raptors next up. Mavs 3-point road favorites, 241.5 being the total here in this game. Toronto, here's a kind of a surprise team coming out of the All-Star break. We always look for these teams that maybe didn't play well going into the break, that maybe use the All-Star break as a hit the reset button. And man, the Raptors have done that. I mean, very impressive because their 3 opponents, well, Brooklyn's had their ups and downs, but they pummeled Brooklyn coming out of the break. And keep in mind, that was Brooklyn with the first game after the coaching change, after Jacques Vaughn got fired and Kevin Ollie took over in the interim. That's usually a bet on spot. And I was on Brooklyn in that game, and they had no chance. They got absolutely drilled by the Toronto Raptors. I took Brooklyn that night because of the coaching change angle. Wrong side. It was all Toronto in that game. And sure enough, on a back-to-back in Atlanta against the Hawks, who are always a little bit better at home than they are on the road, Raptors go in there and beat them outright, the 7.5-point dogs. And then they follow that up with another fine performance against a very good Eastern Conference team, beating the Indiana Pacers outright as underdogs, 130 to 122. 3-0 ATS since the All-Star. It's not easy to step in front of Toronto right now. They've got something pretty good going on. The question is, what do you get from Dallas here? They emptied the tank in a great classic game last night against Cleveland, down to the wire. Cleveland launches a shot at the buzzer to get the victory in that game. Heartbreak for the Mavs. Tough loss. Now you're on a back-to-back on the road against a surging Raptors team, and there's question marks about Luka Doncic's status for this game, although it looks like he's going to go for Dallas and be able to play. On the Toronto side, Jakob Poeltl, that's what's more impressive, too, about the Toronto situation. Jakob Poeltl kind of got banged up in the Atlanta game, played through the Indiana game. He's got a double-double in 3 of his last 4 games, so that's a prop that stands out to me. Jakob Poeltl double-double. And we've said this for years. Dallas has never had a good front court. You can do damage against Dallas in the interior. So a Poeltl double-double, I think, is a pretty good player prop in this game. That's actually what I like the most in this game. Right now, I would lean Toronto. They're the rested team. They're catching points at home. They've been good since the All-Star break. And they're actually, to all the quotes, too, are we're not giving up on this play-in tournament. we're not giving up on trying to get into this play-in tournament. So we'll see how it goes. The only thing that would keep me a little leery of actually pulling the trigger on Toronto, even though I lean that way, is the fact you got Dallas off a loss against Cleveland last night, which maybe means the focus is there against the Raptors tonight. But I still lean Toronto. More than anything, I like Jakob Poeltl double-double. I think he's more than capable of registering one tonight against a Dallas front court that is not one of the top front court teams in the NBA by any stretch of the imagination. What do you think here in this one, Brad? Dallas, Toronto.
Yeah. What are the odds on that Pirtle double? Do you know?
Yeah, it was when you look at it here. Let me just see what the updated odds are because when I looked at it and betted, it was earlier today. We'll just get our odds screen up. But yeah, this has always been something I've talked about on all the NBA shows I've done over the years, Brad. It's that the fact that the Dallas front court can give up points in the interior, that they struggle with opposing bigs, opposing centers, and this could be a spot, like I said, for Jakob Poeltl to flourish with it. Plus 220. At Bobano with that double-double. And we're talking about someone that's registered a double-double for the Raptors in 3 of the last 4 games. So at that price, 3 of the last 4, and you're getting plus 220, sign me up.
I like it. I'll throw a half unit on that for sure. And I'm going to roll with the Raptors here. I like everything you said there. It seems like I'm just fading every team on the back end of the back-to-back, and I have no problem doing that. I would assume we at least hit 2 out of 3 of the first 3 picks we got with that mindset there. And the Raptors, they've looked great on offense, man. I mean, they scored 120 plus in 4 straight games. Looked great in that Pacers game. And yeah, I mean, another pick I do like is I do like the over in this one as well. It seems
I do too, but I'm waiting on Luka to be for sure to be in. If he is, I'm pulling the trigger on the over for sure.
Yep. That seems like a good play there. I mean, I know you were on the Raptors overs, out there at that Nobi trade, and I hopped on that, and that shit's been cashing to say the least. So love that there. And I mean, when it comes to that total as well, the Mavericks, they've had 4 unders in their last 5. So I think they're due for some overs coming up here. And this is a great spot for that. But overall, yeah, like I said, I think the Raptors are playing good basketball. The fact that you could get them at plus 3.5, there will be the more rested team. They have more momentum right now. Seems like the play here. I think laying 3 points with the Mavericks on the road after that game last night is it's a crazy proposition there. So I think the Raptors are the right play here.
You see this all the time in the NBA. Teams that didn't look good at all going into the All-Star break, suddenly the All-Star break, they come out of it and they get on a roll. And that's Toronto. That's what they've done. And I don't like going against teams when they've got this kind of momentum and this kind of roll going right now. So for me, absolutely, I would be still only Toronto or nothing for me in this game. I'll throw another prop that I like. His usage is off the charts right now for the Raptors. Emmanuel Quickly. He has been rolling lately for the Toronto Raptors. It's been a great get in that OG Anunoby trade, getting him. Like Barrett's a great addition too, but Quickly's been excellent. And Quickly is high volume shooter right now, getting a lot of opportunity, a lot of minutes. And again, his player prop is still pretty reasonable. You're looking right now at over 18.5 points for Quickly tonight. This is a guy that has scored, if you look at the last few games for the Raptors, Quickly's been getting into the 20s more often than not. He had 19 against Indiana, 24 against Atlanta, 24 against Brooklyn. So the 3 games since the All-Star break, 19-plus points for Emmanuel Quickly in all 3 games, and his prop's 18.5. So do the math. I think it's worth a look here. He's been very good for this Raptors team offensively. All right, Cleveland, Chicago. We've got Cavs minus 5.5, road favorites, 216 being the total in this one. Cavs are the better of these 2 teams. No question about that. Cavs are also off a buzzer beater win, though, last night in a very hard-fought game against Dallas on a back-to-back. Little bit of a dubious spot here, no question about that. They have owned Chicago. They've won, 7 straight head-to-head meetings for the Cavs, and 6-0-1 against the spread in those 7 head-to-head meetings against Chicago. Bulls are also a team coming off a game last night where they lost as 10-point favorites at home to the Detroit Pistons, 105-95. This is going to be a pass for me. I think I'm going to stay off this. I mean, I still lean Cleveland here. They're the better team, but they've been a bad point spread team lately. They've been a little bit overvalued. They haven't covered a point spread since the All-Star break, 0-4 ATS. And dating back to before the break, they're actually on an 0-6 ATS slide in their last 6 games. Coming off a buzzer beater like that last night, I don't know if I want to back a team off a win like that. But I don't want Chicago because this is not enough points for what is the vastly inferior team that just lost to Detroit at home last night. So that's not a team I trust either. So it's a pass and a stay away for me, Brad. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we're on the exact same page. I was going to say the same thing. I was like, this is my least favorite game on the slate. I don't want to pick either of these teams right now. Of course, terrible spot for Cleveland after that game last night, and I'm not taking the Bulls either. If anything, for a pick, if you guys really want one, I'll lean Bulls plus 5.5. But I'm not going to get to the window at all in this game. Maybe the under 2. I just think this is kind of an ugly game. Both teams on the back end of back to back. Yeah, lean Bulls at home plus all these points, but least favorite game on the slate. So pass for me as well.
Yeah, very, very tricky. Spot wise, it's probably you sometimes want the team off the bad loss on a back to back versus the team that's off a huge, great win like that. So that would point you to Chicago, but I don't trust them enough. And Cleveland's dummied them, just dummied them over and over again. So that's a reason enough right there to stay off that one. All right, next up, pretty good game here. Western Conference battle, Sacramento Kings taking on the Denver Nuggets right there in Brad's neck of the woods. We've got Denver 7.5-point home favorites, 231 being the total here in this game. Should be an interesting matchup. It seems like these two teams in particular have played a lot lately. I mean, my goodness, it seems we've had a lot of Sacramento versus Denver matchups here in recent weeks. So we'll see if we get another pretty good, interesting game here between them tonight. You look at Denver here since the All-Star break, 3-0 straight up. 3-0 against the spread. And you really start to wonder if this team's ramping it up for the postseason now. That, hey, it's time to get our game face on. All-Star break's over now. It's time to start peaking and playing our best, locking in right now. If you're the defending NBA champions, it kind of looks like they've taken that mindset here right now, the Denver Nuggets. 3-0 straight up, 3-0 against the spread since the break. Home win and cover against Washington, home win and cover at Portland. Now, neither of those are too impressive because they're bad teams, but at Golden State and pummeling them 119-103, that is impressive. So it's not easy to step in front of this Denver team at the moment with what we're seeing from them. They've been off since that big win against Golden State Sunday night. Sacramento is coming off a 121-110 loss as a 7.5-point home favorite to Miami on Monday night. What made that loss worse is who was not playing for Miami. There was no Jimmy Butler in that game. Nikola Jovic didn't play either, so a little shorthanded, and Miami still had no problem going into Sacramento, winning and covering wire to wire as a 7.5-point underdog against Sacramento. You look at the head-to-head matchup. The one little concern here, and that's what's keeping me off Denver, even though I'm kind of leaning Denver, Sacramento's covered 3 straight. And you look at the last game, too, in Denver just 2 weeks ago, it was 102-98 for the Sacramento Kings, winning outright as underdogs at Denver. In fact, they've beaten Sacramento's beaten Denver twice this month, here in the month of February. Now, the first time, Brad, it was a brutal spot for Denver. They just pissed on Kobe night, statue night. They beat the Lakers the night before. They sat everybody the next night in Sacramento, and Sacramento took advantage of it. And I was on Sacramento. It was a beautiful spot because they rested Murray and Jokic, and all those guys were out. But the last game that Sacramento won at Denver, 102-98, Valentine's night, that was a game where Jokic did play in that game. I don't believe Murray did. No, Murray did not, but Jokic did in that game against Sacramento. So they had one of the big two in the lineup, and that was a very impressive win. But now you got a Denver team that's coming into this game not only playing well, but thinking to themselves, are we really going to allow ourselves to lose 3 times in a month to these guys? I don't think they're going to want that. So it would be Denver or nothing laying the points for me in this game. And this is another one where I would lean to the over as well. What do you think here, Brad? Sacramento, Denver?
Yeah, I think the Nuggets win this game, but I'll actually take my chances with the Kings plus the points here. This season, it seems like if catching the Kings at home, they can't cover, but when you take them on the road, they cover spreads. I mean, we look at their last 5. They had their last 2 home games was against the Kings and the Spurs. Neither of those games they covered. In their last 2 road games, they covered both those games against the Nuggets and then also the Clippers. So, I mean, this team they cover spreads on the road. I've made the mistake fading the Kings when they're on the road. I actually took them on that Valentine's night where we had a show that night. I remember the Kings were on a back-to-back, and I was like, yep, I'm all over Denver. It was actually my favorite play of the night. Kings ended up winning outright. I'm not going to make that same mistake. I'm taking the Kings plus the points here.
All right. You can't argue with series history for those of you backing Sacramento here. They've covered 3 straight against Denver head to head. We'll see if they can make it 4 straight here tonight as they go to the Mile High City to take on the Denver Nuggets. All right. We have the Battle of LA to wrap it up for this Wednesday NBA slate. Los Angeles Lakers, Los Angeles Clippers. Clippers are a 3.5 point favorite in this game. The total 234 across the board. I still think the Clippers are the better team. That's the way I see it. I mean, you look at it, and I know the Lakers have had some moments, over the last couple of weeks where we've seen some decent basketball from them. But which team in the Western Conference has more long-term viability as a contender, a legit contender? The Clippers do, as far as I'm concerned. And now you got the Clippers, too, off a loss to Sacramento on Sunday, 123-107. They were 4-point home favorites in that game, and they ended up losing by 16. It was a game where it was rather stunning to see how poorly they played. But again, keep in mind there was no Paul George in that game. Leonard and Harden played, but there was no Paul George that night for the LA Clippers. They've kind of gone win-loss, win-loss, win-loss lately, but they've been pretty good off a loss most of the season. And they'll be ready to go probably for a battle against the in-city rivals, the LA Lakers. Lakers have dropped 2 of 3 since the All-Star break. They get blasted at Golden State, 128-110. They barely beat San Antonio at home, 123-118 as 11-point favorites, and then they lose 123-113 on the road at Phoenix. So they're 2 step-up in class games for the Lakers since the break, 18-point loss at Golden State and a 10-point loss at Phoenix. That doesn't give me confidence going into this game tonight against the Clippers. Clippers off a loss. Clippers for me, minus 3.5. What do you think here, Brad?
Yep, I'm all over the Clippers in this spot. I feel like after that Sacramento game, this Clippers stock dropped down a little. There's a lot of hype around this team, so I think this is a great spot to buy low on the Clippers. I think the spread should be around 5.5, 6. I look, the Lakers, they can beat up on the good teams, but I don't trust them against the better teams in the NBA. So yeah, I mean, LeBron's questionable too. I assume he should play in this one, but you never know with him. So yeah, I think the Clippers, this is a great spot for them to bounce back. We know what this team is capable of. They're 37-19. This team could get hot at any moment. So, with a spread this low, yes, they need to win by 4. But basically, if the Clippers get a win, there's a good chance they're going to cover the spread. And I think the Clippers are, substantially better than this Lakers team, night in, night out. So yeah, loving the Clippers in this spot.
Yeah, AD is playing for sure, and LeBron's on the injury report every day, all season long. He never comes off the injury report, so you've always got to be careful with it. But in this case, Brad's point is correct. There is still a chance he may not play tonight because he's more toward questionable than probable right now with that lingering left ankle issue. And remember, the Lakers, if I'm not mistaken, they also play tomorrow night, so this is a back-to-back situation for them going into. So we'll see if he's going to be used tonight. Actually, they don't play tomorrow night. No, they don't. Actually, they don't. So I think he's going to play. If you ask me, I think he's going to play, especially I thought they did play tomorrow night. They don't. But regardless, the Lakers have had a tough time stepping up in class on the road. They get crushed. Golden State and Phoenix, both on the road since the break, and they got crushed by double digits in both games. So to me, the price is cheap with the better team and the team with the long-term, better. We trust the Clippers to be there in the West as a legit contender. Lakers are just trying to make the playoffs at this point. To me, there's a class difference still between these two teams, and there's definitely a class difference in coaching. I'll take Ty Lue a million times over instead of Darvin Ham. Green eggs and ham does not do it for me.
Poor Darvin Ham, man.
Yeah, no. So coaching edge too for the Clippers here in this game. Total wise, look, I like betting Laker games over usually, but I do get the sense this could be more of a playoff feel to it, and I know the under is taking money, so I don't hate the under. Look, I could actually see this being a little bit, maybe low scoring. So I'm off the Lakers overs, at least for tonight. All right, that's the NBA.
I got a question for you, Ian.
Sure,
when it comes to total, so I saw this trend on Sunday. NBA unders went 11-0, and then yesterday unders went 10-1. Do you think that's a coincidence, or do you factor that in your handicapping at all?
Well, there's two things. One, they're coming off the All-Star break. Offenses and shooting, I think, have been disrupted for sure coming out of the All-Star break. And number two is, look, the games are getting more important. What happens when the games get more important? More of an emphasis on defense. Finally, we're starting to see some guarding, contesting of shots. when we've spent pretty much the whole first half of the season with very little of any of those things. We didn't see anyone guarding their man. We didn't see anyone contesting shots. We wouldn't see any effort to get back on defense. Now, all of a sudden, we're starting to see that here in the second half of the season. But it's going to level off. It's not going to be an underclip to this magnitude. And you've still got to do your handicapping game by game, matchup by matchup. And if the over makes sense in the matchup, you've still got to bet it. You can't be scared by, whoa, it's this crazy, what is it now, almost 20-2, 20-3 type of run to the under here the last two nights. You've still got to do your daily handicapping. That being said, I am treading a little lighter on the unders, or sorry, on the overs right now. Like the one over I really, really like tonight is Dallas-Toronto.
Yep.
The rest of the games, I'm lukewarm on overs. So that's where I stand right now with that. Like maybe tread a little lighter, but you can't just say, well, I'm not betting any overs now with this crazy under run. No, you've got to do your game by game, matchup by matchup handicap, because you can't put a blanket statement over anything. I say that about everything in sports betting.
Nice. Yeah, good insight. I was curious there. I mean, I look at it more as a coincidence. I don't put too much stock into it. Look, I love a good trend. Don't get me wrong, but you can't base your full handicap on just trends. So totally agree with you on there.
Yeah, exactly. You've still got to do your due diligence, and you've still got to do your handicap and see again game by game. Break down the game as you normally would, and then make your decision on what to do as far as the total on that. Don't just base it off, well, we got to bet unders because of this trend here the last 2 days, no question. All right, here's our college basketball segment here for this Wednesday. It's an interesting college slate. College has been even better for me than NBA this season, and especially of late, where NBA's kind of had a downturn for me since the All-Star break. Things are still going really well in college basketball. Again, it's a solid enough card tonight. There's a lot of good situations, in my opinion. I'll just throw out a couple that I'm looking at here tonight. I think Tennessee is probably going to win handily against Auburn. Auburn's not been quite the same team on the road this season. I think Tennessee at home has been very good. It's a big game for them. Bruce Pearl coming back to a team he coached many years ago. Tennessee now with Auburn. And Auburn's Auburn to me is still on defense. We've seen that defense look a little bad on the road in a couple of games lately. Let's not forget that. And I still have bad memories of Kentucky going in there and just absolutely romping Auburn. So Auburn's starting to look a little human lately. I think Tennessee's probably in a good situation there to get the job done in that game. I like over with Tulsa and UTSA, and UTSA has really started to play good basketball. I think they're a short home favorite there in that game. They might be worth a look, in my opinion, there as well in that one. ODU is suddenly starting to cover some point spreads, and they're getting a healthy 14.5 against App State. I think Old Dominion might hang around there in that game, getting a big number like that. I like Furman as a dog against Western Carolina. This is a Furman Paladins team. Don't be fooled by the record, okay? This conference, the SoCon, it still goes through the Furman Paladins. Let's not forget this was an NCAA tournament team last year, winning that conference tournament, beating Virginia in the first round of the tournament. And I think they're being slept on, and I think they're starting to play better basketball. And get them as a dog, getting points against anybody in that conference, including Western Carolina tonight. I'm interested when it comes to Furman. In that game. How about a red-hot point spread team that I've been riding lately, and I'm going to ride them again tonight out of the A10? How about those LaSalle Explorers? I'm going exploring for profits tonight. They're getting too many points there in that game against Duquesne. Duquesne's up and down, erratic. They just got drilled by Fordham on the road on Friday night. LaSalle's playing their best basketball. They got a veteran coach who's been around the block, and Fran Dunphy, who coached at Temple for years. He's the coach there at LaSalle. And this team is making strides forward. There's no question. So I think they're getting way too many points in that game. It wouldn't shock me to see them win outright, or at least down to the final possession of that game. And you can get them plus 8.5, plus 9 in that game against Duquesne. So I think LaSalle has terrific value there in that game. And I'll just throw out a couple of others here that we're interested in as far as this card goes. You look at a couple of these games. I'm looking South Carolina, Texas A&M. A&M's a hard team to lay points with right now. They're really, really struggling. And I know South Carolina, people are waiting for them to fall apart. And they kind of hit a little couple of blips there where they lost. But they bounced back strong over the weekend. They killed Ole Miss over the weekend. Very impressive win for South Carolina. I think I'm leaning to the Gamecocks there. Hopefully they don't go limp tonight in that game. Alabama versus Ole Miss. I mean, Alabama on the road's a little dicey. Yet at the same point in time, they got truly and utterly embarrassed by Kentucky over the weekend. You'd think they're going to want to bounce back from that. We'll see if they are capable of doing so in that game. And I think there was one more that I was interested in. Oh, yeah, Belmont and Murray State over. Belmont, we typically think of them as a bit of an over team. I think you might see that again here tonight involving that game. And here's a little bit of a scary one for me here with Samford on the road laying 5.5, 6 against. I think Wofford took them down to the wire at Samford the last time they played each other earlier this season. Now Wofford's got Samford at home. I know Samford's an outstanding team. It's them and Furman, two of the best teams in that conference. Samford's had a great year. They deserve to be road favorites. But Wofford almost beat them at Samford. Revenge for Wofford. Senior night for Wofford tonight on their home court against Samford. So there'll be a little extra juice in the building tonight for this game. I think that's a sneaky home underdog there, Wofford. +6 there against Samford. So I'll stop there. There's others, but don't like nearly the others that I have not mentioned as much. Brad, college basketball, anything you like? What games do you like?
Yeah, man, I'll just go rapid fire as well. First game I'm looking at, Virginia Boston College. I'm going to take Boston College on the money line here at home. I don't think Virginia's good. They started off the season right, but I don't trust this team on the road. I don't trust their offense. I think this is a good spot for Boston College to get an upset here, getting plus money. There's a reason that they're 15-12 team only getting a point and a half. It's telling you something there. They're begging you to take Virginia. Take Boston College on the money line. Next, I'm going to lay the big number with Creighton here. We saw last week when Creighton played UConn, that home court advantage is no joke. That looked absolutely terrible to play in. I was on UConn that game, and I was like, holy crap, I'm not fading this Creighton team on the road again. That was terrible. So I think Creighton comes out and gets a big win at home. So I'll lay the 9.5 there. I'm actually on Texas A&M in this one. I think this is another spot where Vegas is begging you to take South Carolina. I think it's that line is fishy. That line is fishy. I think there's a reason it's 5.5. So I think it's a tough road spot for South Carolina. I'll take them to get a win there. I was on Butler. I still am on Butler. That line movement is kind of scary to me. Looks like St. John's is now laying a 1.5. I still like Butler. I don't like St. John's. I don't like how they've looked lately. They are coming off I think they're coming off a nice win. So good for them.
Against Creighton. Rick Pitino in his all white suit there trying to show how pimping he is. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And when I saw that white suit, I was on Creighton. I was like, oh, I'm screwed. And they won that game. But I'm gonna go back to Butler. I don't love it, but I do like Butler there. Let's see. Let me scroll up here a little more. Iowa State laying 9.5. I mean, that Iowa State's been such a good home team for me this season. They've been like 12-3-1 ATS at home. It's a lot of points, but I am leaving Iowa State there. I kind of like Murray State laying the 1.5 against Belmont. Belmont, they have a better record, but this team has screwed me. 5-9 ATS on the road. Murray State hasn't been a good cover team either, but that line is fishy as well. I think it's weird that they're only laying a 1.5. So leading Murray State there, and then let's see.
Yeah, they're only 5-9 straight up on the road too, Belmont. Belmont's not a team I'm comfortable taking on the road. Simple as that. And I'm with you on Virginia, that sentiment. That's a bad team. They are only as good as they are because of Tony Bennett and the coaching. And he somehow gets everything he can out of them, but they can't shoot straight. I don't think necessarily their defense, the pack line, is as good as it's been in the past. And they just don't have a lot of upper echelon blue chip NBA talent on this particular team this year. They just don't. So I'm with you. I want to fade Virginia. I don't have as much faith in you as in Boston College. That's my one concern, but I'm with you. It would be BC or nothing there for me.
Yep. Yeah. And I'm looking at this Louisville Duke game. I don't have a play in that, but this court storming shit, them trying to ban court storming.
I'm sick of hearing about it. I'm just like, let's move on now.
Yeah, exactly. They better not ban that. That's what makes college basketball great. So
I agree.
I just had to put that out there. Screw Duke. I want to try to like Duke every year. They make me hate them for another reason, and that's the reason this year. Kind of like Maryland, laying the 5.5. Look, it looks
I'm
like
with you there. Yep.
Looks like Northwestern's a better team. I like Maryland's defense at home. I'll lay the 5.5 there, and I think they'll do it. There.
Yeah, I agree with that. Look, Marshall's bad on the road. I kind of like Georgia Southern as well against Marshall.
I actually am taking Marshall today. I am taking Marshall.
Wow.
That kind of makes me a little scared that you say that, but I think they are the better team. It's scary. It's scary.
That should be a high-scoring game. Both teams will play with pace, too. Georgia Southern plays up-tempo. So does Marshall under D'Antoni, who's been there for quite some time. So, yeah, I like over in that game as well. Yeah, there's a lot of good looks. You know what's an interesting line here is North Texas Tulane. Usually I like Tulane at home, but I don't know if I like Tulane's form right now. And I like Ron Hunter, but, man, they're starting to leak oil here late in the season. North Texas is starting to play really good. So, to me, on paper, North Texas, small road favorites, those kind of numbers always look a little dicey, but I think North Texas might be the side there. I think they're just the better team there.
Yeah, fading the green wave.
Yeah,
I see.
I think.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Missouri, Florida. I'm telling you what, Florida's not the kind of team I think. Yeah, I really, really trust Florida laying 13. And Missouri, look, Missouri's not good. Missouri's bad. They have not won an SEC conference game yet this season, which is unbelievable at this point. But can they hang within 13 there against a Florida team that defensively can be flighty? Let's not forget that. They can be really, really flighty at the defensive end of the court. Now, they played earlier in Missouri, and it was a 12-point win for Florida in that game. Missouri lost at Arkansas by 15. But before that, they lost only by 5 to Tennessee. They took Ole Miss down to the wire and lost by 3. So I've got Missouri on the potential, on the radar. I just don't know if I'll move on it.
Yeah, Florida they just every game seems like a close game with them.
Yeah.
So that is scary laying that 13.
Now, remember, they played Georgia, and they were up by 20, and next thing you know, the game goes to overtime. I remember that game. Yeah.
I was on Georgia in that one. I was pretty happy when I saw that go to overtime. But I can't really trust Florida laying a big number, but goddamn, Missouri's not going to get an SEC win this year.
Missouri could lose by 3, and they can lose by 23 tonight. So, there's a big variance with them. Yeah, big variance with them right now. All right, there you go. Great rapid fire discussion for college basketball right there. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Make sure you hit the like button before we wrap things up, because we are wrapping up in a couple of minutes. And as always, we're wrapping up the show with best bets for this Wednesday slate. Brad, what do you got here for best bets for this Wednesday?
Yeah, I'm gonna roll with the Indiana Pacers. I feel like that may be your best bet as well, so I appreciate you letting me go first. But love the Pacers in this spot. I mean, simple as that. I think it's a good bounce back spot for the Pacers. So I'll take the Pacers there. I'm trying to think of a college basketball play. Give me Boston College. Like I said, Virginia, they're begging you to take Virginia in this spot. This team is not good, especially on the road. So give me the Pacers in Boston College.
All right, Indiana Pacers, NBA, -6.5. Boston College, money line. Pretty much a pick 'em against Virginia. NBA and a college best bet for Brad Francis. I'll go LA Clippers for my best bet, -3.5 against the LA Lakers. Yeah, Indiana's right there, too. I agree. That's best bet material. I'll go LA Clippers, -3.5. And I'm going to go with those LaSalle Explorers, I should say, +9 against Duquesne. This is a team that has been a moneymaker for me the last few games with them. They continue to be under the radar because they struggled so much early in the season. But these are the teams you make money with late February in college basketball, the teams that suck early on. And now they're catching fire. Now they're undervalued. Now they're covering point spreads. They just beat the shit out of, Rhode Island over the weekend on Sunday. The game was just a complete blowout. LaSalle is playing their best basketball of the year. Duquesne is way too erratic to trust as laying this kind of number. Give me LaSalle there, +9 against Duquesne. And, of course, the Clippers in the NBA for my best bets here for this Wednesday card. Brad, always fun doing these shows on a Wednesday. Tell people where they can find you.
Yep, you can follow me on Instagram at Brad Wins Bets. All my stuff funnels into there. I drop free picks. If I'm on any show like this, I post that there. So it all funnels back into there. So Instagram at Brad Wins Bets.
All right, great stuff. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Hope you enjoyed the show. For Brad Francis, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Wednesday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. Bet like Tony Soprano. Bet with Bobano. And we will catch you again next time right here